The Catherine Empire dominated the stars with ruthless authority. Their colossal fleets swept through space like shadows of doom, spreading death and servitude to any planet that dared resist. For 3 centuries, they had subjugated world after world, system after system, until their dominion spanned half the galaxy. None could withstand their unmatched war engines and devastating technology. Admiral Kane Morrison stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Sovereign, the crown jewel of the Imperial fleet. The warship stretched 10 kilometers in length, bristling with weapons powerful enough to vaporize entire cities. Kane had led this vessel for 2 decades, waging relentless campaigns against alien civilizations that naively thought defiance was an option. He had never tasted defeat. His bridge crew moved with quiet precision, tending to the vast sensor arrays that monitored the volatile border zones, regions where insurgent activity still lingered. These were the Empire's fault lines where resistance sometimes dared to breathe. Kane's duty was to snuff out such embers before they could blaze. It was a role he excelled at. "Admiral, incoming reports from the outer colonies," said Commander Jake Collins, his tactical officer. A grizzled veteran of 40 space engagements, Jake had risen through the ranks by merit and merciless competence. 3 mining planets in the Epsilon sector are late on tribute." Kane's expression didn't change. Delayed payments were routine in the distant territories. Conquered populations often tested boundaries with minor acts of disobedience. They never understood that the Empire's tolerance had limits. "Send the standard warning," Kane instructed. "They have 48 hours to pay in full with penalties, or we glass their cities." "Message already sent, sir," Jake confirmed. "I've also stationed the destroyer squadron just outside their system. Should keep them cooperative." This was Imperial order, terror forged into policy. Every species under their rule knew the price of rebellion. The Empire's legacy was carved into scorched planets and generations of slaves. Captain Lisa Ford stepped forward from the science station. The Empire's chief xenobiologist, her role was to dissect alien biology to uncover exploitable weaknesses. She had been instrumental in engineering the bioplagues that crushed the Zephyrian uprising in half a standard year. "Admiral," she began, "I've completed my study of the Tieti colonies. Evidence suggests underground movements are forming. Their communication traffic points to coordinated resistance." Kane processed the report. The Tieti system had been conquered a mere 5 years ago, but its people remained obstinate. A proud race, they refused to bend under Imperial rule. Perhaps it was time for a final measure. "Recommendations?" he asked. "Full population relocation," Lisa answered coldly. "Transfer them to labor camps on Kepler 442b. Recolonize the system with loyal Imperial citizens. We can't risk losing resource access to sabotage." Kane approved. She understood the truth. Emotion had no place in governance. The Empire's strength came from its willingness to do what others would not. That was the difference between rulers and the ruled. The Sovereign pressed on, a silent titan sweeping the contested fringe. The region was escorted by a battle group of 50 warships, a formation designed to showcase Imperial dominance. Whenever alien worlds glimpsed such a force, most surrendered immediately. Those who didn't were annihilated, serving as grim warnings to others. Lieutenant Amy Brooks sat at the sensor console, monitoring communications. At only 25, she was unusually young for her rank, but her brilliance in decoding alien signals had already thwarted multiple ambushes against Imperial targets. "Admiral, I'm detecting strange chatter from the independent systems," she reported. "Multiple mentions of something called the Watchers. The aliens sound uneasy, but they're using encoded terms I haven't cracked yet." Kane waved the report away. Conquered civilizations always conjured myths about saviors who would free them from Imperial chains. It was weak hope clung to by the broken. Superstitious nonsense, he said flatly. Keep an ear on it, but don't waste resources chasing bedtime stories. The bridge resumed its rhythm, silent vigilance, constant readiness, and preparation for the next subjugation. The Empire's expansion never paused. There were always more planets to conquer, more populations to break, more wealth to extract. It was the way of things. The strong ruled. The Catherine Empire was the strongest. Commander Ryan Stewart entered with a datapad, his face unreadable. He oversaw the Imperial Intelligence Network in this sector, coordinating a vast web of agents, planted across dozens of systems. His efforts had neutralized revolts before they could fully ignite. "Admiral," he said, "we've confirmed the leadership behind the real colony insurrection. 12 individuals directing sabotage against our mining sites. Here's a list of their families and close contacts." "Execute standard response," Kane instructed. "Public executions for the ringleaders, labor camps for their families. Ensure the broadcasts reach every colony in the system." That was how the Empire suppressed rebellion. They didn't just eliminate resistance, they erased everything connected to it. The lesson only needed teaching once. After that, the rest obeyed. Then the Sovereign's sensors detected something unexpected. A new contact appeared at the edge of long-range scans, heading directly toward the Imperial fleet. It was too compact to be a capital-class vessel, but too large for a civilian freighter. What stood out most was the energy signature. It didn't match any classification in the vast Imperial ship database. "Unknown contact, bearing 27 Mark IV," Amy said quickly. "Distance, 50,000 kilometers. Approaching. Configuration and origin unknown." Kane's gaze narrowed on the tactical readout. In 2 decades of command, he had encountered a wide variety of alien technologies. Each species had its own design language, its own energy footprint, but this one was like nothing he'd ever seen. "Scan it," he ordered. "Full spectrum. I want every sensor on it." The Sovereign's powerful scanners reached across the void, enveloping the object with every available diagnostic beam. The data returned was confusing. The vessel's structure was composed of substances their instruments couldn't clearly classify. Its power output was nearly non-existent, barely above passive levels, maintained core functions, yet its velocity remained astonishing. "Scan complete, Admiral," Lisa reported, her voice edged with confusion. "This vessel defies all known engineering standards. The hull is distorting our scans in impossible ways. It's behaving as if it's warping space around itself." Kane felt the first flicker of discomfort. In over 300 years of conquests, the Empire had always held the upper hand in technological warfare. Their guns struck harder, their ships flew faster, their sensors saw farther. That superiority had been the backbone of their dominance, but now something had appeared their machines couldn't fully comprehend. The strange ship continued closing, in on the Imperial fleet. Kane Morrison watched the holographic display intently. The unknown craft's trajectory was direct and deliberate. There were no evasive adjustments or signs of shields activating. Whoever controlled it was either incredibly confident or suicidally reckless. "Distance now 30,000 kilometers and decreasing," Amy Brooks said from her console. "Speed and heading unchanged. Still no response to hails." Kane had encountered silent alien vessels before. Some believed ignoring the Empire might protect them from retaliation. They were always wrong. The Catherine Empire had perfected ways to make even the most stubborn species speak. "Weapons range in 5 minutes," said Jake Collins, his hands moving across the fire control interface. "All batteries primed and targeting systems locked." "Open a channel," Kane ordered. "All frequencies." The comms officer activated the broad-spectrum transmitters, and Kane's voice echoed into space in every dialect known to their empire. The Empire followed this procedure with unknown entities. Offer a single chance for submission, then annihilate. Unidentified vessel, Kane declared, his voice thunderous with the weight of centuries of conquest. This is Admiral Kane, Morrison of the Catherine Imperial Fleet. You are trespassing in restricted Imperial territory. Identify yourself and prepare to be boarded. Failure to comply will result in immediate destruction. The alien craft did not slow, did not reply, did not acknowledge. Kane waited 30 seconds, then gave the order with a sharp nod. Jake's hands hovered over the firing interface. The Sovereign's main batteries rotated into position, locking on target. Then, without warning, everything changed. The weapon systems went dead. Not destroyed, not jammed, just lifeless. Jake tapped the controls again. Nothing. The great cannons capable of reducing continents to rubble stood inert. Emergency diagnostics lit up across the bridge, but none reported malfunctions. No energy drain. No software failure. No sabotage. The guns should have been operational. They just refused to respond. "What's happening?" Kane barked. No one had answers. Lisa Ford launched rapid diagnostics on every core system. Amy Brooks scanned for external interference. Nothing added up. "Admiral," Jake said at last, his tone tight. "Weapons are completely down. Systems all report green. Everything's fine. But we can't fire. No command input is registering." A cold sensation slid down Kane's spine. In all his years of command, he had never encountered anything that could shut down Imperial firepower without leaving a trace. Their systems were shielded. Hey, ask ChatGPT. There was no emotion in the voice, no threat. It could have been announcing the weather. "Withdraw from the territories of the peoples you have conquered, or face the consequences." Kane stared at the speakers, stunned. No alien species had ever dared issue ultimatums to the Catherine Empire. The idea itself was laughable. The Empire ruled over hundreds of worlds and commanded enough firepower to annihilate entire star systems. Who could possibly believe they had the authority to demand anything? "Who are you?" Kane demanded. "By what right do you assert authority over Imperial space?" "Authority is not taken," the voice responded. "Authority is earned. You have spent 300 years proving yourselves unworthy of the power you possess." Then came the part that froze Kane's blood. Embedded in the transmission were detailed schematics, classified data on every ship in the Imperial fleet. Complete technical readouts, advanced weapons blueprints, experimental system logs, even ultra-secret designs locked deep in secure databases on the Imperial homeworld. Lisa Ford confirmed what he already knew. "Admiral," she whispered, "these specs are accurate. Every one of them. Engine layouts, firing algorithms, shield, harmonics. Even the prototypes still in development." The implications were shattering. Either the Empire had been compromised at the highest levels for decades, or they were dealing with an intelligence-gathering method beyond comprehension. Neither explanation was remotely acceptable. "Impossible," Kane muttered. But the moment the word left his lips, he knew it wasn't true. The evidence was undeniable, staring back at him from every monitor. "Nothing is impossible." The voice replied, as though following their discussion in real time. "Your kind simply lacks the perspective to understand what is." This was why the expansion had to end. Commander Ryan Stewart had been quietly checking security logs since the weapon systems failed. Now he approached, pale and grim. "Admiral," he said, "I've verified every classified database. No breaches, no infiltration, no data exfiltration. Whatever they know, they didn't get it through any conventional means. That somehow made it worse. If the data hadn't been stolen, then how had the aliens acquired it? What kind of technology could pull information from secure systems without leaving any trace?" Then Amy Brooks looked up from her console, horror etched across her face. "Admiral, I'm detecting identical energy signatures all across the sector. Multiple ships, same configuration, appearing at our outer bases and colonies. The tactical map zoomed out to display the full picture. Dozens of identical vessels had appeared simultaneously, each one parked near a major Imperial site, all silent, all watching, all waiting. Kane saw the truth in that moment. This wasn't a chance encounter. It was a calculated maneuver, a coordinated show of force that the Empire couldn't match, let alone counter. The unknown force had aligned itself to strike at every vital Imperial holding at once. "This is a declaration of war," Kane said, aloud, trying to inject his voice with confidence he no longer felt. "War implies parity," the voice replied. "This is judgment. Your civilization has been measured and found lacking. The suffering you have caused ends now." Jake Collins had been struggling to bring the weapons back online. "Admiral, I've exhausted every method. Manual overrides, bypass protocols, even hard resets on the firing nodes. Nothing works. It's like the systems still exist but refuse to recognize our commands." The mysterious vessel began to move again, not toward the Sovereign, but in a slow, deliberate orbit around the fleet. Then the impossible happened. Every ship in the battle group lost power. At once. No weapons, no engines, no gravity, no communication. No life support. Total blackout. Thousands of crew members floated helplessly in dead warships. A few sections lit up with dim emergency backups, but everything else was gone, leaving the might of the Empire adrift in silence and darkness, in weightlessness, unable to comprehend what had just crippled their legendary fleet. The blackout lasted precisely 60 seconds. Then, just as abruptly, everything returned. Life support kicked in, gravity resumed, systems rebooted, everything worked again as if nothing had happened. But the message had been delivered, clearly. The aliens could shut down the entire Imperial Navy at will. The myth of the Empire's technological dominance was shattered. Their power meant nothing when confronted by a force they could neither grasp nor oppose. For the first time in centuries, the Catherine stood utterly vulnerable, at the mercy of an unknowable adversary. Kane Morrison refused to yield. The Empire had not conquered half a galaxy by surrendering to threats. They had survived and triumphed over overwhelming odds before, through precision, ruthlessness, and sheer force of will. "This will be no different," Kane said. "Transmit emergency. Code to all fleets in the sector. I want every available warship en route to this location. Battle deployment maximum." Jake Collins moved swiftly, coordinating the massive mobilization across multiple star systems. "Admiral, confirmation from High Command. 2nd, 5th, and 8th battle groups are en route. Total reinforcements, 197 vessels, includes 12 dreadnoughts and 43 heavy cruisers." Kane nodded. "Let them come. Let the intruder face the unified might of the Imperial Navy. No matter how advanced, no ship could survive this much firepower. The Empire would remind the galaxy why it reigned supreme. Still, the alien vessel didn't move. It made no evasive maneuvers, no shield activations, no increase in power output. Nothing. As the reinforcements arrived, warship after warship dropped. From hyperspace into formation surrounding the intruder. The fleet swelled by the hour until the strange ship was encircled, boxed in by the most powerful military force ever assembled. Lisa Ford observed the vessel closely during the build-up, scanning for any response, any signal of fear, of preparation, of strategy. "Admiral," she reported, "the target remains inactive. No defensive systems coming online. No call for backup. No reaction whatsoever." Kane frowned. Even the most deluded alien species displayed caution when facing Imperial steel. But this one? Nothing. That either meant absolute confidence or total ignorance of what was coming. Then Amy Brooks turned sharply from her console, face pale. "Admiral, reports from across the Empire. Identical vessels appearing at every major fleet base, conquered world, and key resource site. They're everywhere." The pattern was unmistakable. Single ships, manifesting without warning, taking up silent positions at every node of Imperial power. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a coordinated strike. There weren't just a few of these ships. There were hundreds, possibly thousands. Kane tried to grasp the sheer logistics. How could such a massive fleet position itself across the Empire with no prior detection? Commander Ryan Stewart had been scanning intelligence from across the territories. He stepped forward now, visibly disturbed. "Admiral, I've confirmed. Something critical. All the ships appeared at the exact same moment, down to the microsecond. That level of coordination requires instantaneous communication across light years." Kane absorbed the implications. Theoretical FTL communication existed, but only in labs, and only with incredible energy requirements. Yet these aliens had achieved it and used it in the field. They were beyond Imperial science by a scale that could no longer be denied. "Fleet status?" Kane asked tightly. "All units in position," Jake replied. "Encirclement complete. Every ship has overlapping fire sectors. Even with energy shielding, this level of concentrated fire will breach any known defense." Kane stared at the tactical overlay. The alien vessel sat at the heart of a vast formation, a sphere of warships, each bristling with weapons powerful enough to flatten continents. The sheer destructive output aimed at that one ship could fracture moons, crack planetary crusts. No defense in the galaxy could survive it. "Open a channel," Kane ordered. "Final warning." The communications officer engaged the transmitters, broadcasting Kane's ultimatum across the void. "Unknown vessel. You are now completely surrounded by the Imperial Navy. Your advanced technology has been noted, but you face insurmountable odds. Surrender immediately or be annihilated." The reply came instantly, spoken in that same flat, unaffected voice. "Your threats are irrelevant. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your numbers are meaningless. Watch." What followed defied every scientific principle the Empire had ever understood. Every Imperial warship, nearly 200 in total, shut down. This time it wasn't just weapons. Engines ceased. Life support vanished. Gravity fields collapsed. Comms channels died. Emergency fail-safes failed. Backup generators did nothing. Across the entire fleet, tens of thousands of soldiers floated helplessly as their mighty ships turned into cold, silent tombs. Even emergency lights remained dead. The great engine of conquest, the most feared military force in the galaxy, became nothing more than drifting wreckage in orbit. Kane watched in frozen disbelief as his screens dimmed to black. The bridge of the Sovereign, the command core of the Imperial war machine, sat in total silence. In contrast, the alien vessel remained fully operational, its strange systems glowing steadily, unaffected and unreadable. The blackout lasted exactly 1 hour. During that time, every crew member aboard every ship was left alone with the same realization. They were alive only because the enemy allowed it. Their technology functioned only by the will of beings they could not understand. Their very existence depended on the mercy of a force far beyond them. When the systems finally returned, the psychological blow was crippling. Jake Collins stared at his rebooted displays, his face pale with shock. "Admiral, how is this happening? Our ships are hardened against every known electromagnetic and quantum threat. This shouldn't be possible." Lisa Ford had been analyzing data throughout the blackout. Her findings were deeply disturbing. "Admiral, I've detected no emissions, no particle signatures, no recognizable energy outputs. Whatever they're using, it doesn't fall within our known physical models. It's as if they can will systems to stop functioning." The implications were catastrophic. The Empire's entire dominance was based on technological superiority. Stronger weapons, better armor, faster ships. But none of that mattered against an enemy that could simply alter the rules of existence. Amy Brooks had been monitoring fleet communications. The tone among the crews had shifted, from resolve to fear. These were battle-hardened soldiers who had crushed countless civilizations. But this enemy had no weakness to exploit. "Admiral," Amy said quietly, "morale is deteriorating. Some commanders are requesting to retreat. Others are asking if we should consider negotiating." Kane felt his grip on command weakening. The Empire's strength came from its myth of invincibility. That myth was unraveling, and if his own fleet doubted it, what of the enslaved worlds watching this unfold? Then, the alien vessel transmitted again. This time, its signal was routed. "To every ship in the formation, directly. You have witnessed a fraction of our ability. Your weapons obey only by our permission. Your engines move because we allow it. You breathe because we choose mercy over justice." Kane attempted to reply. But before he could speak, his personal communication interface activated on its own. They were listening, monitoring, controlling even his private command systems. The voice continued, undisturbed. "The peoples you have subjugated cry out for freedom. The worlds you have scorched demand retribution. The species you have enslaved seek freedom. We are the answer to their centuries of suffering. Your empire ends now." The transmission ended, leaving behind an oppressive silence that gripped the Imperial fleet. Kane stared at his tactical displays, watching as the enigmatic ship held its steady position, still, silent, unshaken, at the heart of a formation meant to intimidate. But it was Kane who felt trapped. Nearly 200 warships surrounded the alien intruder, yet he knew with chilling certainty the Sovereign was no longer in control. 12 hours after the demonstration ended, Dr. Helen Park arrived aboard the Sovereign. As the Empire's foremost physicist, she had been pulled from Proxima's deep research station to investigate what many still refused to believe. Her expression was pale as she examined the sensor logs. "Admiral," she said, voice trembling slightly, "I've completed my initial analysis. What we witnessed violates every known physical constant. That vessel manipulates quantum fields directly, as though our most advanced machines were clockwork toys." Kane read through the report, dense with technical terms and incomprehensible equations. But the conclusion was simple enough. They were facing an enemy whose abilities defied the Empire's understanding of reality itself. "Explain it plainly," Kane ordered. "What are we dealing with?" Helen took a moment, then nodded. "Imagine a civilization that can rewrite physics. They don't break our technology. They change the rules. They can stop electrical flow, halt fusion reactions, reverse gravity. Our systems don't fail. They're dismissed." The implications were catastrophic. The Empire's dominance had always relied on the idea that natural law was fixed. Their entire military machine was built on that foundation. If the aliens could rewrite those laws, then imperial power meant nothing. Jake Collins had been coordinating fleet reports all night, and the messages were growing darker. "Admiral, we have new intelligence from occupied systems. The alien vessels are no longer just observing." Kane narrowed his eyes. "What are they doing?" "They're arming the resistance," Jake said grimly. "Worlds we considered fully pacified are rising. Somehow the aliens are supplying local militias with advanced tech, and it's happening across the entire Empire." Amy Brooks backed him up, reviewing intercepted signals. "It's coordinated. Everywhere we've conquered, they're distributing weaponry that matches or even exceeds our own. These uprisings didn't spark organically, they were triggered. It wasn't just a demonstration anymore. The enemy wasn't showing power, they were using it. The Empire was being dismantled from within." Commander Ryan Stewart had examined weapons recovered during several recent skirmishes. What he found chilled him. "Admiral, this tech is custom-tailored to bypass our defenses. It's like they reverse-engineered our military decades ago and built the perfect counters. Every function, every weakness, they've planned for all of it." Then the alien vessel reactivated its broadcast. The same voice, calm and unwavering, echoed through the sovereign once again. You seek understanding. We will grant it. A hologram projected into the center of the bridge. It showed the full scope of the Catherine Empire's military, every fleet, every covert base, every top-secret facility. Nothing was hidden. Every classified asset laid bare in excruciating detail. Kane stared in disbelief. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Some of these sites I don't even have access to." Then the image shifted. Now it showed something far worse. Detailed logs of every imperial atrocity across the last century. Burned worlds, enslaved races, genocides recorded with cold precision. Lisa Ford looked on in horror. She recognized too many of the campaigns. She'd helped carry them out. The aliens hadn't just discovered them. They'd been watching, judging, preparing. "They've known us for decades," she said softly. "They know how we fight, how we think. They know everything." The hologram changed once more. Now it displayed liberated worlds, once conquered, now free. Populations celebrating beneath the shadows of alien ships. The enemy wasn't passive. They were orchestrating a galactic reckoning. The oppressed call for justice, the voice said. The burned worlds demand vengeance. The enslaved seek deliverance. We are that deliverance. Kane stood frozen. The Empire's reckoning had come, not by chance, but by design. Every strength had been measured, every failure catalogued. Helen. Park stared at the alien projections, her voice barely a whisper. "Admiral, their technological development is beyond our comprehension," Helen said quietly. "They've mastered systems we haven't even begun to imagine. Compared to them, we're primitive, cave dwellers throwing stones." The hologram displayed one last devastating image. A galactic map appeared, showing current Catherine territorial holdings. Then it shifted, highlighting how the map would look after the liberation was complete. Every conquered world was labeled for emancipation. "Every imperial structure marked for demolition. You have a choice," the alien voice declared. "Withdraw immediately from all occupied systems and provide full reparations to those you have harmed, or face the total destruction of your military and the end of your empire. You have 72 hours to decide." The transmission cut off. The bridge fell into an unnatural silence. Kane stared at the space where the projection had hovered, his thoughts slow and disoriented. An empire that had ruled unchallenged for 300 years had just been dismissed like an unruly child. What once seemed eternal now looked like a fleeting illusion. Amy Brooks was the first to speak, her voice barely steady. "Admiral, confirmation from Imperial Command. Identical ultimatums have been delivered to every major installation across the Empire." The entire Catherine regime had received the same message: surrender, or be erased. Kane already knew the decision his superiors would make. They would never bend. Not after centuries of conquest, pride, and unchallenged rule. To retreat was to confess weakness. To offer reparations was to admit guilt. It would dismantle everything the Catherine had claimed to stand for. But to resist meant facing extinction at the hands of entities whose power turned the Empire's greatest weapons into dead weight. Kane had always believed in human exceptionalism. Now he saw that belief for what it was: blind arrogance. They were just another violent species who had risen too fast and reached too far. Jake Collins, ever the loyal tactician, tried to salvage a military solution. "Admiral, even if their tech is superior, we still have numbers. Thousands of ships, millions of troops. They can't be everywhere at once. If we strike decisively, we can—" Kane looked at him, not with anger, but something like sadness. Jake still didn't understand. These weren't invaders in the traditional sense. They didn't need to outnumber the Empire. They didn't need fleets. They don't have to be everywhere, Kane said quietly. They can disable everything we have with a single thought. Numbers don't matter when our weapons can't fire and our engines don't respond. The mysterious vessel still hovered at the center of the Imperial Armada, silent, unmoving, untouchable. It was no longer a threat. It was a verdict suspended in space. Kane understood now. Whatever choice Imperial Command made, surrender or defiance, would decide the future not just of the Catherine, but of everything they had ever ruled. For the first time in 300 years, they weren't the ones dictating terms. Then, without warning, the alien vessel vanished. One moment it was there, a black silhouette of quiet power, and the next it was gone. No warp trail, no energy pulse, no signal. It didn't jump, it didn't cloak, it simply ceased to exist. Kane Morrison stood, motionless on the bridge of the Sovereign, watching his tactical displays confirm the impossible. The enemy ship had disappeared without a trace. After 3 days of demonstrating godlike control, they had ended the encounter without ceremony or explanation. "Full sector sweep," Kane ordered. "I want to know where that ship went." Amy Brooks obeyed immediately, initiating the most sophisticated scans the fleet could deploy, searching for any trace of the vanished vessel. "Admiral, I'm detecting no residual energy output, no subspace anomalies, no gravitational shifts," Amy Brooks reported. "No quantum disturbances of any kind. It's as if the ship was never here." The disappearance should have brought relief, but instead it deepened Kane's unease. The alien entities had made their threat clear. 72 hours. Withdraw from every occupied system or face total annihilation. And Kane knew with bitter certainty, the High Command would never comply. Captain Nicole Hayes stepped forward from the comms station, her expression grim. As the senior intelligence officer aboard the Sovereign, Nicole coordinated incoming data from dozens of Imperial sources. She held a tablet filled with chaos. "Admiral, the situation is unraveling fast," she said tightly. "Uprisings have erupted on more than 300 worlds, simultaneously." Nicole hesitated, then added, "The rebels are armed with technology that outclasses our frontline forces. Garrison commanders are calling for emergency support." Kane reviewed the incoming reports. Each one painted the same picture. Worlds, once locked down under brutal Imperial order, were now rising in perfect synchrony. They fought not with stolen weapons or improvised tactics, but with advanced, precision-calibrated equipment. The aliens had kept their word. Jake Collins had been reviewing battlefield reports, focusing on rebel armaments. He looked up from his console, disturbed. "Admiral, the gear they're using, it's engineered to defeat us." He brought up schematics. "Their energy weapons bypass our shields. Their kinetic systems pierce every known armor type. It's as if someone reverse-engineered our entire military doctrine and then built its exact counter." The level of synchronization defied comprehension. Hundreds of rebellions, all armed with custom-tailored weapons, delivered simultaneously across the galaxy. The logistics should have been impossible. But it had happened. Commander Ryan Stewart stood near the rear of the bridge, earbuds in, monitoring encrypted command lines. He turned toward Kane, his face drained of color. "Admiral, new orders from High Command," he said. "They've rejected the alien ultimatum. All fleet commanders are to hold position and prepare for prolonged engagement." Kane went still. Of course. The old men on the capital world still believed this was a conventional threat. Just another insurgency to be crushed with overwhelming force. They hadn't seen what he had seen. They hadn't watched an entire battle group go dark without a shot fired. They didn't understand. Lisa Ford returned to her station, her face pale but composed. She had spent hours analyzing the fragments of data left behind by the alien vessel. Her voice was low. "Admiral, There's no comfort to offer. Based on my analysis, Helen Park said softly, these entities operate at a technological level we don't even have terminology for. They manipulate forces our science still considers immutable. Their capabilities, they're rewriting physics in front of us. As the 72-hour deadline neared, tension gripped the fleet like a noose tightening. Kane stood on the bridge, silently watching his crew go about their duties, their confidence hollowed out by what they'd seen. Veteran officers, hardened by centuries of conquest, now questioned whether their weapons would even respond when the moment came. The psychological shock of the demonstration had shattered the illusion of imperial invincibility. Amy Brooks broke the silence with a sharp intake of breath. "Admiral, massive energy signatures across the sector, dozens of them, the same as before." She turned, pale. "They've returned." The tactical interface flared to life, showing ship after ship, materializing around every major Imperial installation. They weren't coming for a fight. They were already in position to dismantle. Kane opened a command channel to coordinate with other Imperial fleets, but before he could speak, the alien voice cut across every frequency. Calm, authoritative, final. "Your time has expired," it said. "You have chosen war over peace, tyranny over justice. You now face the consequence of that choice." What followed was not a battle. It was a deconstruction. Every Catherine vessel lost power at once. Engines died. Weapons powered down. Shield generators collapsed. The proud armadas that had ruled the stars fell dark and useless in the void. This time, the power did not return. And across the conquered galaxy, something else began. The uprising. With alien technology and quiet support from mysterious allies, enslaved populations rose in perfect synchrony. They attacked with confidence, coordination, and devastating precision. Nicole Hayes monitored the madness spilling through Imperial channels. "Admiral, we're losing contact with garrisons across all sectors. The rebels are winning, in every case. Some of our troops are surrendering. Others are abandoning their posts." Kane absorbed it all in silence. The Empire was coming apart, in real time. Without weapons, without ships, they had no leverage. The myth of Catherine dominance had collapsed, and with it, the resolve of their legions. Then came the final broadcast. The same voice, now echoing across every powerless fleet. "Your empire was forged in suffering. It was sustained by terror. It ends now. Those who seek peace may return to their home worlds. Those who choose defiance will face the justice they have long denied others." Some commanders obeyed immediately. They opened their ships. They transmitted surrender codes. They begged for safe passage. Others remained loyal, even now. They shouted orders, tried to reassert control, tried to mount resistance. Their defiance was brief. It lasted only as long as the aliens allowed it to. Kane watched the displays with numb disbelief. One world after another lit up with rebellion. Uprisings that should have been impossible were unfolding with machine-like precision. Entire star systems were slipping away faster than anyone could react. The power the Catherine had claimed as eternal was dying in the span of hours. Jake Collins sat stiffly at the tactical station, hands hovering over controls that